I can hear something calling. It's calling me every day. If taking a chance is a crime, then I've got hell to pay. I've been walking the streets in my mind, trying to find a new day. Keep on searching until I will find, until I find a new way. I'm gonna say something, I hope you don't mind. It's time to rearrange. I walk round in circles, I'm going nowhere. It's time to make a change.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I am your host, Charles Wallace, and welcome to the Bare Essentials podcast. As we continue on our journey to build a stronger community, I'm very excited to share with you all the Kindness Alliance, which is a unique, free of charge advertising initiative looking to support businesses that share in our core values. Each episode will look to spotlight a different member, celebrating their contributions and dedication to kindness. Would you like to get involved? Just visit the Kindness Alliance section on our website, www.thebareessentialspodcast.com, or just send me a message. And now, a huge thank you to this week's Kindness Alliance member.
Hi, Joel Maurer, founder of Dink Ninjas. Dink Ninjas was dreamed up and started right here in Austin, Texas, a dynamic pickleball community. We arm pickleballers with the paddles, apparel, and accessories to dink like a ninja. Dink Ninjas is dedicated to supporting mental health awareness and cancer research. Shop our full lineup at dinkninjas.com.
Hey, Bob, how you doing? Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Wonderful to be here at this hour and with such a distance between us. It's wonderful. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, please. Thank you for agreeing to be on the show. I've been really excited about it. Bob, I don't want to spoil too much because I probably will not do it justice. So I will let you, if you could give a brief introduction of yourself before we get started here.
Okay, I'm Robert Christopher Copus. That's on my book. The book that I wrote is Impressions of Near-Death Experiences, with hundreds of quotes from more than 100 NDEers. That's not where I started. I started as an economist, so it shows you that economists can also be spiritually interested. And at the moment, I'm retired, but I became member or board member of the International Association for Near-Death Studies. So that's the organization in the United States, but also worldwide, that tries to get these to get attention for these NDEs, and also to do research, scientific research into this area. That's about me.
Fantastic. So obviously I want to really get into the near-death experience aspect. Before we go there, though, what I'd like to ask you is what initially drew you to want to study near-death experiences, and how over time has your understanding of that evolved?
Good question. Well, it started actually when I read the book written by Raymond Moody. He coined the term near-death experiences in 76. I was in my 20s then. I was studying economics. And the thing that really struck me was a story of a woman who had her NDE, and in her NDE, she had her life review. And a life review is something you can see what you did to others throughout your whole life. So you see your whole life spinning out in just a few seconds or minutes. There's no time on the other side, so it's difficult to label it. But the thing that really struck me was that there was no judgment. And I was raised Roman Catholic with hell and purgatory, and I never liked that story. I never bought it, even though I believed everything my parents said. And when I read that in the book, I thought, this is true. This resonated with me, and that started my interest. And then I did my career, and after 20 years, I started looking into the matter again. And I noticed this organization in the United States, the International Association for Near-Death Studies, IANS. And in the Netherlands, there had been done wonderful research by a group of people that I got to know afterwards. And then I started having conversations with NDEers, and that got out of hand. So that this is where I am as a kind of an expert on NDEs now.
We could probably, and I don't want to do this, but we could probably really steer the conversation in a direction, because I was raised Roman Catholic also. And I was I'll say it like this, Bob, I was a very inquisitive child. And I asked a lot of questions that the answers I received were kind of, stop asking those questions. And, I, like you, I had a lot of questions about the concept. I'll just say about modern religion in general. But I think that's also what piqued my interest in wanting to have you on. So you mentioned your book, and I think part of what's fascinating that you write about, and just with near-death experiences in general, is common themes that happen throughout for different people and how they're similar and things like that. Could you talk about that a little bit?
First of all, all NDEs are different. There is no one protocol. It's not a tick box exercise. So people often speak about tunnels they go through. There are a lot of people that don't have a tunnel and wind up in the light and in the wonderful area, the heavenly area, where they think they are in a blissful environment, just like that. So it's not always with a tunnel. There's some people see deceased relatives, others don't. The life review that I mentioned just before, not everyone has one. So it's not like there's one scheme of things you have to go through, one protocol or so. That's not the case. But nevertheless, there are a number of things that that one can say they are reoccurring often. And the most important one is the unconditional love. And those are just words. I know that, for instance, there are Anita Morjani, for instance, she wrote a wonderful book about her NDE, and she says the words unconditional love are just don't they don't say it all. It's not enough. It's bigger than that. It's much, much bigger than that. But unconditional love is something you have to think about. It's there for everyone, no exception. That's how people feel it. And I always tell my audience, just picture someone you don't like, you really despise, perhaps. It could be a politician or someone in your work environment or anywhere. Also, for those people, there is unconditional love. There is no exception. The other thing that I came to feel as really something that reoccurs so often is that there is a kind of unity that we all are part of. That is something that there are so many quotes on that. It starts with people saying we are at least very closely connected, everyone. So you're sitting on one side of the ocean and I'm sitting here in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, but we are connected, very thoroughly connected, although we don't see it. When we close this conversation, I will be going about my stuff and you go about your stuff, and we don't know of each other. But that's, nevertheless, there is a connection, and it's with everyone all over the globe, also with nature. Some people go further. They say we are one. There's a big oneness, and that's where we all belong to. Just to give you an example of someone who said something like that and went to extremes. She said, leaving your body is giving you such a freedom, because you're not confined to your body. Your body, you have to understand, is really a confining thing. You are in it and you can't get out. It's like some people call it a prison or a wetsuit that is just a little bit too small. for the essence that you are. And she said leaving it is wonderful because you don't have the anxieties, you don't have the problems, you feel free. There's a total freedom that is there. But she says the consciousness is even leaving that, it will, like, just to give you the quote, I went to this place where I no longer exist as a separate entity. It's like a drop in the ocean. You are totally dissolved. There is no separate consciousness, and there's a vastness, and you are dissolved in whatever words we use for the Godhead. So yeah, so that's the idea. It's, there is a oneness that we are part of, and that means that if I do something to you, I have to be careful what it is. It's better to make it something nice, because I will be able to feel what that is.
You know, I also, another reason I want to have you on, I think, I don't know, at least for me, when I hear these stories and look into it, it does give me somewhat of a sense of peace, I feel like. And it leads me to the next kind of, it's two words I'll say, but one topic: faith and hope. When I think of faith and hope, I think they really are very much play off of each other. I think faith gives us hope, but I think we have hope to have faith. And I think that's what these near death experiences, it kind of enforces that, at least for me, it does. So I wanted to ask you, during your studies, how often do you find that the person who's describing it, that their religious beliefs are intertwined, and how does it reinforce faith, and does it give them hope?
You know, the people who have had an NDE are absolutely sure that life continues after death. One of the after effects of NDEs is that people leave or lose their fear of death. So and even they long for death. There is always a kind of homesickness, because they know where they are going to, and they know it's home. The word home is often used as well. It's not here. It's not where you are sitting or where I'm sitting. It's somewhere else, and that's the real place that we will go to. So there is it's not a belief, it's a certainty. These people become certain that there is something else after we die, and it doesn't stop. Then about religions, what I notice, and that's being recorded also in other studies, is that people tend to become less religious and more spiritual. But there are still people that stay within their church. So that's either Christian church or Judean church or Islam or any other religion, Hindu, Buddhist. But there are a lot of people that want to look outside their little box. They become interested in what the other religions say. And sometimes they move away from the religion, because what I also hear people say a lot is that religions are very confined. There is a lot of dogma, there is a lot of rules, and they say the real thing is much, much bigger than any one religion. So that's one of the quotes. So, and you know, other quotes are like, there are more than one way, one road leading back to God, or how you want to call it, because the word God is also something that is confining, because it depends on what religion you are in. For me, I'm a Roman Catholic, as you know. In churches, God is most of the time, if he is depicted, which is not allowed to, but it's this rule is trespassed. He's depicted as an old man sitting on a cloud with a long beard. That's really doing a bad thing about who God really is. So it's better not to picture anything about God, because it's bigger than we can imagine. That's another thing that comes from NDEs. People who have had an NDE find it very, very difficult to explain what they went through because they say there are no words and no concepts in our language or any other language that will do the job. It's difficult to explain what they went through. For instance, time. They say time is not there. It's between time. That's an actual quote in my book. My experience was not in time, it was between time, or all time is there at the same time. So it's such a different realm that what we read in Bible or in the Quran doesn't do it good. It's too limited. So it's better to leave it open, and to concentrate on the things that are important. And that's in all religions, that's love and kindness and compassion. And in NDEs, it's unconditional love. That's seemingly to be the most important thing there is.
Yeah, again, it gives me hope, because that's, for me, for my life, a lot of people I know, and for people, what I hope and wish for is, that's what I want. I want this to be more about kindness, hope, love. And I think that's really, it's poignant. And I think that's why this information is needed for people, because I do think it will help. Before we get off of that part, though, I did want to ask you, in your experience talking about it, have you, and I think I've read or maybe heard one or two of these described, but we talk about the love, the kindness. Have you ever experienced or spoken to anyone who's had the opposite of that, where it was dark, it was scary, and it was more related to what's the traditional version of, I'll say, hell?
Yeah, yeah. There is a subset, a minority of NDEs that people go through and they say it's real. An NDE is real. It's more real than we are sitting here and experiencing life here. It's more real than that. Is a subset of NDEers that say they had seen a hellish environment or were part of it, were in that hellish environment. Now, it's very important at this moment to say one of the conclusions that we can arrive at after researching these stories is that you cannot say that distressing NDEs, that's the term that we use, that distressing NDEs only occur to bad people. You have to understand that it can happen to anyone, and blissful NDEs can happen to anyone too. I can give you two examples. One is Daniel Brinkley. He wrote a book with Paul Perry about his experience. And in his book, he writes that he was a horrible person, stealing bikes, were in countless fights. He went working for an American organization to shoot off a number of adversaries in other countries. At one point in time, he killed 50 people in a hotel by blowing the hotel up just to get out one. Well, you wouldn't really call him a very nice person, because in the Bible and in all other religions, it says, don't kill others. So he had a wonderful NDE, really a very nice NDE with lots of blissful experiences with meeting the light and having unconditional love. And he had his life review. And in his life review, he saw everything from the other side, from the receiver's side, as he called it. And that was the difficult part. That was really horrible, because he felt what it was to be those people he shot. And not only them, but also the wives of these people and the children of these people. That was the difficult part. But otherwise, it was a blissful experience. Now, there is another person that is in my book as well, but this is her book, Misfit in Hell, to Have an Expat. And she wrote this book because she had her distressing NDE. And in the distressing NDE, she she goes through a hell-like environment, but after she comes back again and she is released in some way, and she is in heaven, or on the doorstep of heaven. That's how she writes it, and she has to go back to Earth because she has things to do. But she recalls, or she realizes that the things she went through in this hell-like environment are also the things that she was really afraid of being on Earth. She was a Roman Catholic. She was afraid of hell and purgatory, very much afraid of that. And she was raped several times. She was afraid of attracting AIDS. And those were all the elements that she had in her NDE. Now, what the idea is that when you when you start your NDE, when you're out of your body experience, then still things can pop up from the collective unconscious, but also from your personal experiences. And that's what happened to her. She can really point out the things that she had in her NDE, and she can link them to things she went through while being on Earth. And there are others that say that I want to close this off on a positive note, because there are NDEers that hear explicitly that there is no hell and purgatory. And another NDEer says, we all go home. We all go to the nice, wonderful area. So I don't want your listeners to be afraid. They need to understand that in any case, if they long for the light or for love, they will get that. And I believe, that's my belief. I believe we all go there, to that wonderful area. There's no hell and purgatory.
So I love the sounds of that. It does make me want to ask, though, because I feel like for someone that maybe has the, not the, I apologize. What did you call it when it's not a nice experience?
Distressing, because there's a lot of distress in it.
I would imagine that for people that have a distressing NDE, I would expect to see hopefully would see some changes where maybe they would change their patterns of life, the way they live.
But it's not always necessary. I mean, this woman that I spoke about, she was a common person, just like you and me. There's nothing special about her, and certainly she didn't kill 50 people in a hotel blast like the other one, like Daniel Brinkley. I mean, and there are others. There are many other people who have had a distressing NDE and are just as common as you and I. So that's the point. A distressing NDE can happen to anyone. And on the note of changing your life, what people say, NDEers say, when they went through their life review, is that there is no judgment. You get to see everything you did to others as if you are the other, not only from your own point of view, but also from the point of view of the other, the receiver. And if it's nice, then you will rejoice in the things you did. If it's something less nice, then you will be sorry that you didn't choose anything else. Because as an example, there was a woman in the Netherlands who was asked by a school friend to get rid of the lice, and that was just after the war in the Netherlands, and there were no shampoos to get that done. So the school friend had to ask someone to help her. And this NDEer, when she was small, she said, okay, let's do it. And she made a big fuss out of it, so everyone could hear that. And when she had her NDE, she saw that little part of time, that episode, and she felt how horrible that was for the school friend, because it was like she was stabbed in the heart by the NDEer. And the NDEer said that in itself was horrible. That was painful to go through, because I went through what she went through. But the thing that was worst was that I saw there were alternatives, and I didn't choose the best alternative. I could have chosen something else that would have given life more love. There would be more love in this world when I chose that, because there's also ripple effect. What you do doesn't stay only where you are or with the other party. It goes further. She said it also affected the parents of their child while she didn't see the child, the parents of the child. She didn't know them, but she saw how it affected them as well. So that's the idea. There's no judgment whatsoever. So, but that doesn't mean that if you lead a life with a low level of love, then try to improve it to get more love in it, because you will rejoice it once you see your life review. And what you do to others, you do in fact to yourself. So if it's loveless actions, because we are all one, you will feel what that was for the other. So it will return to you. It will return to you.
Thank you for going into that a little deeper. Yeah, I think too, when you would end it that a little bit, what I wanted to try to get across, and I think you just did a really good job with that, was that also we don't want people to think, hey, no matter what you do here, you will be good in the next, you'll have, you know what I mean? You'll experience all this goodness in the next life. But I just, again, want to get across to people that I do hope and think it matters that, to your point, more love, more kindness. I don't want people to think that just do whatever you want, be as evil as you want to be, have as much fun as you want to have, because at the end, it doesn't matter at all. I don't think that's what you're saying either. And I just, I hope people, because I want to still believe that people are more good than not good, Bob?
I want to believe that as well. I think that's a good phrase. I think
Yeah.
that's good.
So, okay. So definitely want to get into this. And before we start it, you mentioned it even. So let's talk a little bit about the skepticism.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get a lot of that. How do you talk about that? What do people who don't believe in NDEs or think it's more something to do with your brain chemicals in your brain, things like that? What do you say? How does that go over?
First of all, people sometimes say it's hallucinations. Well, the point with hallucinations is that hallucinations have no logic. There's no storyline. It's goes here and there, and it's all over the place. Dreams, more or less the same thing. Both of them, hallucinations and dreams, you will forget very soon. They don't stay with you. On the other side, NDEs, there is a storyline, there is a logic, there is a conversation that you can understand. There is things play out in a way that you feel familiar with. And the thing is, NDEers remember this story for ages. It has been researched that they even remember it after 3 and 8 years and beyond that. I know, because I've spoken to people who had their NDE like 30-40 years ago, and they still know exactly what the NDE was about. So that is about the what an NDE is versus hallucinations or dreams. And it has been established in prospective research. So that's the research that science wants to have done, because it's repeatable. That there was a research done in the Netherlands in 10 hospitals over a period of 30 years, where they every single person with a cardiac arrest brought into the hospital and revived or resuscitated. Otherwise, you can't speak with them. They were asked, "Do you have a recollection of the time you were out?" And there were like 18% of those people. It was a database of 344 in total. 18% remembered something. Those were the NDEs. Now, then you have two groups, one with and one without the NDE. And then you can look for differences, because the differences may be the cause for the NDE. Now, there were no differences between the two groups because both groups had a lack of oxygen. Both groups had a dying brain where substances were created that could trigger hallucinations. And again, I spoke about hallucinations. Now, that's one part of the research, and that was repeated also in the United Kingdom and the United States with the same results. Another kind of research is when you go through the stories that can be verified. And the International Association of Near-Death Experiences didn't only publish my book, which is this one, The Impressions of Near-Death Experiences, but they also published this one, The Self Does Not Die. There are hundreds of stories in this book of situations where an NDEer got out of his or her body, roams around the area where the body is, like in the hospital or in at the crash site or the accident site, and sees things and later can say, I saw this and that. And that couldn't have been seen from the body. There are countless of these stories, and they are verified independently. So maybe to give you just one example of a woman who was in an accident in the United States somewhere. She had to be flown into a hospital with a helicopter. She was in the hospital. Her family came over to her. They were in distress in the cafeteria, waiting for news, the parents and the two grandmas. And she had her NDE, and she could go through the hospital, and she could see in the cafeteria what was playing out there. And what happened there was that the father who smoked needed to get a smoke outside the hospital because it couldn't be done in the hospital. And he went out, and the two grandmas who never smoked and who would never smoke wanted to smoke as well, because they were so in disarray that they needed to do something. So they went out, and she saw that. And then later, when everything was back to normal again, she was in her body, everything, she was repaired and restored again. She said that she could see everything, and the parents didn't believe it until she said this little episode where she saw the parents, the grandmas leave for smoke as well. And, you know, that's just one story, and it's been independently verified by researchers doing this. They spoke with the doctors, they spoke with the people involved, the grandmas and the NDEer. But there are many of those stories. And what does it tell you? It tells you that your consciousness can be separate from your body. That's what it tells you. So the proof of the light area, the light, the unconditional love, we don't have that. But if you have proof of this, so you can, this is true, this part where the consciousness can be outside of your body, then the other part of the story is where they see the light, where they have conversations, where they see other kind of stuff. That could be true as well. And come to think of it, in my own experience, I spoke with a woman who had her NDE in '86. And she said, I had an interview with her at the start of 2008, just before the financial crisis. She said to me, there is an episode coming, and it's coming very soon. It will happen very soon, where the economy will break down, and it will affect a lot of countries. Countries will go broke. People will go broke. It will affect a lot of people also in the Netherlands, but also in the United States and elsewhere. And I'm an economist, and I thought, well, that's a nonsense, because the whole thing with Bear Stearns was solved by the Federal Reserve with a deal brokered by them. So, and the stock markets went sky high. And then later that year, in 2008, September, AIG went belly up, and you had Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and then Lehman Brothers, and that started it all. So she had seen that episode already in 86. She couldn't label it when it was, but she said the anxiety in the world, in the newspapers that I saw around Bear Stearns, made me know that it was coming soon. That's the only thing she could say. But in the 90s, she said, well, I don't know what that was about. I couldn't label it. I couldn't picture it when it was. So these kind of stories really give you more direction, or more, it gives a certain proof.
Yeah, it gives it more to me an expansiveness of that I can only explain as being our conscious, our like it's more, it goes beyond even what. So I think for me, before talking to you, reading more about it, when I thought NDE, Bob, all I would envision was someone on the operating table can see right there that space, the immediate space of it happening. So this does start to add layers to it. Um, I I started off that segment with the question about skepticism, and I don't think there probably is an answer to this. I'm more your opinion on this. For me, and I think a lot of people, NDEs to me are a good thing. I think they give hope. They give us a vision of what is out there and that there is something out there. Why do you feel that people, I'll say the scientific community, maybe just in general, why do they want to disprove it? What to you is the goal of trying to disprove it?
I've been thinking about that too. I don't know. I was asked that before, and I sincerely, I don't know. It's maybe because people want to believe that this is all there is. This is the end. I mean, if you die, then that's it. Why would there be like a Santa Claus on the other side waiting for us with all kinds of presents and wonderfulness? I mean, that's things you tell to children, but you don't tell to adults. Maybe that's the thing. I don't know. I have no clue. And the thing is, the proof that I mentioned to you briefly. I mean, yeah, you can. There's much more, and it goes into more depth than just in this interview. But it is really there. It's really there, and I don't understand why people don't look at that more often, or when they come across it, they just throw it away. I don't know. Good
Yeah.
question.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Good question. It's a good question. I don't know. I have no answer to this.
Yeah, I don't either. I didn't think I mean I didn't. I was curious. I wanted to hear what your opinion was on it. You know,
But there is more and more people having an NDE. I mean, we are so very clever at getting people back again before they really die, especially in the Western societies, in your country and my country and in Europe and so and elsewhere. I mean, there will be more and more people having had an NDE. And actually, at this moment, there is like 4 to 5%, that's the estimation of people who have had an NDE. So you count 25 people, and one of them is having had an NDE in your surrounding. So you have maybe more than, I suppose, more than 25 people that there's at least one of them that has an NDE. If you know 50 people, it's two, etc. So, and I think that if people really would understand, especially they don't talk about it, they don't feel safe to talk about their NDE because it's very private. Moreover, they are afraid of being rejected, as being said, it's a hallucination, that's nonsense. If you say more about this, you will have to go to some kind of hospital, a psychiatric institution or so. They are not always, they are afraid of saying these things, of talking about their experience. That is also the reason why we don't meet these people so often, but they are there. They are actually there.
And that's why I think it's important that people hear what you have to say, your book, others who have experienced it. And I may get some flack for even saying this. I feel like folks that have had an NDE, I almost feel like they're a new age prophet, so to speak, in some way, right? Like I do. I believe that those stories, Bob, listen, I think in general the world lately is really, it's taking a turn, right? And I think we all need hope. And I think that this is the type of thing that can give people hope.
Yeah.
For those seeking that hope, what would you give as advice for them if they're curious? Like, how do where should they start exploring their research in NDEs if they're really looking to dive deeper into this topic?
Yeah. Let me first start by saying that NDEers don't turn into saints. They have their human flaws. They are still human, but
Mm-hmm.
they have the feeling. They change. That's a very important thing. They change thoroughly. They will be less interested in money and power, more interested in nature and in meeting people and having relations with other people, being more sociable, like this Daniel Brinkley. He was in this organization shooting off people in other countries, but now he is working for hospice and things like that. He really changed his life, and everyone does. So, and then the question where to start looking for information. I would think, in any case, of course, my book, Impressions of Near-Death Experiences, because the point is that in my book, I leave it up to the reader to come to their own conclusion. The only thing that I do is to bring together hundreds of quotes that are aligned in 12 chapters that are on topics like how do you get out of your body? How do you get into your body again? What are the after effects? What is the purpose of life? Why are we on earth? And why is everyone important? Life review and distressing NDEs. Those are all things that I have a separate chapter with a lot of quotes. Actually, I didn't write the book. It's the NDEers that wrote the book because of their quotes. And I just have some text in between. That's, I would think, a good start, but also go to the website of IANS, the International Association for Near-Death Studies, so ians.org. Find also stories on nderf.org. That's the Near Death Experience Research Fund .org in the United States. And you will find stories from all over the world. Also from people in other religions. Everyone can have such an experience. People of all walks of life have them. It's, you cannot pinpoint, it's everyone, black, white, yellow, red, rich, poor, Hindu, Christian, Judaist, you name it. Everyone can have an NDE, and they are there. Also in history, interestingly, in history you can find stories that you think, like the saints in the Catholic Church. Some of them, not all. If you read the story, you think, oh, that could have been an NDE she had or he had. Yeah.
I was actually, as you were talking earlier, I was thinking about that a little bit, about some of the things growing up in the Catholic Church that, wondering about that, if that could have been. So I mentioned about, for those just starting out, I wanted to get your opinion and ask you this though, because I think maybe it's still an unexplored topic, or not as explored as people want it to be. Where do you see the future of the research and studies of NDEs going? Do you see it expanding over the next couple decades?
I think yes, because people are curious about it, and there are people researching it. And I think the research that I mentioned with analyzing stories that can be corroborated and confirmed independently, I think those are important. And there will be more and more of these stories, and maybe other ways of research will be done, maybe in substances, and see how that turns out. I don't know, but I think there will be more research, and there is also a journal of the research of near-death experiences. So it's also getting scientific, and I think that's good because we need to. We need to bring this out of the hocus pocus kind of area. It's serious. It's because it's also serious stuff that people encounter on the other side. They really feel that that's more real than this world that we are in at this moment.
All right. So I wanted to end with this. You mentioned the book and all the stories of the NDEs that you bring together. I mean, Bob, and you also mentioned about one big question I think we always ask is what is this? What are we here for? How has doing what you do, those stories, your experiences, if I ask you now, knowing all of that, and I say, well, Bob, all of that being said, what the hell are we doing here? What would you say to that?
Ah, that's, in my book, there's also a chapter on what is the purpose for us on Earth. And some people get an answer while asking it. Some people get a bonus. They don't ask for it, but they get some indication. And it's quite diverse. It's love is important. Experience life is important. Understand that we are already divine. We have the divinity within us, and that contains everything. There's unconditional love within us, and all the knowledge is already in us. You just need to express your divinity. That's one of the people who said it like that. And maybe just to give you an example of a little girl, Christina, I want to tell that story. She had her NDE as a consequence of an assault, which is not so very nice, but she had her NDE anyway. She went through a tunnel, and at the end of the tunnel, there was an elderly person, and she said, it couldn't have been anyone else than God. So God spoke to me, and I had to go back to Earth, but he gave me a recipe for life because he said life is quite easy, and it only contains 4 ingredients, and those are love, be loved, just be, and experience life. And that's what I think it boils down to. It's like the love component is very, very important, because you will love it when you see your life review and you have been a loving person. If you haven't been a loving person, you will not really like that. But there's no judgment. I mean, that's also a thing that I understand. But the just be part is you can sit on a chair and do nothing, and you are, and you experience life. But that's not the nice thing. It's more thrilling if you do things with it, if you have the choices that you have. And also, one NDE said it's not only the big things that are important, it's also the small things. Like she went through her life review and saw that her life was sort of nice. And then she went through the life review again, and then she saw the little moments in life where she could have made a difference for someone else by just smiling at the person in the street, because that person was contemplating suicide. But while she would have smiled to the person, that would have changed it around a little bit more. So that's a thing we all need to learn, to also do the little things. And I, for myself, riding my bicycle in Amsterdam is a bit of an issue because it's very crowded, and I'm not always the nice person then. But I made myself smile 3 times a day, at least, to someone I don't know, and hope to receive a smile back again. And yeah, that's what I do.
Well,
It's also fun to do that.
listen, I can't think of a better way that we could have ended it. That story, it brings me back to the old saying, through the mouths of babes, through children. And I think hearing it told that way through her experience, and then you ending it with what your experience and your thoughts. I think that is just good. And I agree, Bob. I think if we can all just be kind, love, just focus on the good things and really look to just be better people, and this world will be a better place. And that's what I hope people take away from this. I really do. On that note,
thank you for having me on your show. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this has been fascinating. And, I know today I'll probably end up down a rabbit hole of looking even more into NDEs and things like that. And, I mentioned to a couple of people that I was doing this episode, and I was very surprised at the difference in reaction. A couple of people were like, wow, that sounds really fascinating. And I did have a couple of people that said, oh, no, that's kind of scary. I don't want to. It's not scary to me. I think it's fascinating stuff. And you were, Bob, let me just say this with you on the line here. I think you are a wonderful ambassador to this. I think the research you're doing and the work that you're doing is truly important. And I think and I hope it's not for a long time, but I think when you have your life review, I think it will be pleasing to you. So thank you for that and doing what you do.
What a nice words, kind words. Thank you very much. It was really nice to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
Well, listen, everyone. Thanks, Bob. Well, everyone, please check out Bob, his book. I'll make sure I have show notes and places where you can connect with Bob. But again, take a look. It's really, really gets you thinking. And that's important too. Just think more and be more. So thanks, Bob.
This has been the Bear Essentials. Thanks for listening. And remember, never hibernate on your goals.